Hey everybody! The purpose of this video is to get us some solutions to this homework about negative numbers. So we'll go through it point by point. The first one's just 5 minus 12. And there's a couple ways you can think about this. We established a fun one at the end of class today, which is thinking of this as 5 plus negative 12. That was what, I forget if that was Maya or Anjali, I forget who brought that up, but they had this kind of cool idea where you ignore the sign and look at the numbers and say which number is bigger. Well, the 12 is bigger. So whatever we're going to get as an answer will carry the sign of the bigger absolute value number. So since it's negative, the answer is going to be negative. And then the difference between these two numbers is 7. And some of you liked that, some of you didn't, and that's okay. The way I think to establish it is to break it back to as basic as possible. If you start at 5 and move 12 places to the left, I'm pointing to the right. Hopefully that looks left on your camera. But if you start at 5 on a number line and move 12 paces, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 puts you 5 down, and you've still got to go 7 more to drop 12 more. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7. So you end up with a negative 7. That, I think, is probably the most agreeable way of thinking about why 5 minus 12 is negative 7. You have your own ways, that's fine too, but for somebody who's not ever understood negative numbers, I do believe this is probably the easiest way of dealing with it. Okay, so now we've got, the next one is negative 4 minus a negative 19. Okay, so the difference between this one and the previous one is twofold really. The first is you start with a negative 4, but that's okay. All that tells you is you're starting at the negative side of the number line. Here you were starting at positive 5, here you're starting at negative 4. No big deal, negative 4. Then minus, so again, you think you're moving left, but then you're subtracting a negative 19. So to subtract a negative, remember what subtraction is. To subtract is to add the opposite, right? To subtract is to add the opposite. To subtract is to add the opposite. So in other words, subtracting negative 19 is the same as adding 19. To add the opposite. Add the opposite of negative 19. The opposite of negative 19 is positive 19. So then you end up starting at negative 4, moving that way to the right 19. Negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0. You've moved 4 of the 19. You have to go 15 more. 15 more to get up to 19 above negative 4. Okay? 1/2 minus 1. Very similar to this one, except I snuck a fraction in on you. No big deal. I saw some folks had written it like this. They did 1/2. They called this 2/2. I love that. That's wonderful. Regardless, you could still think of it the same way. If you're at positive 1/2 and you move 1 this way, if you get down to 0, you've only moved half the way. You have to move another half into the negative territory. So it's negative 1/2. Or negative 1/2, which is also equivalent to it. That also makes perfect sense and equivalent. 10 minus 4/7, I said you could do this as a decimal if you want to, round to the nearest tenth. 4/7 is about, what is that? 0.14, 0.2, 0.56, 0.54, somewhere in there. So I'm going to guess that's somewhere like 9.46 or something like this. I'm guessing a lot of you just... Let's see how well I did on that one. I want to type it into a calculator. And some of these, I'm guessing some of you probably did calculators with this. 10 minus 4/7, 9.43. I was off by a bit. 9.43 or 9.4. If I had listened to my own advice, out of the nearest tenth, I would have had the answer right. 9.4. Okay, 12 minus. I'm running out of board. I bet I should clear some space. Yes. All right. 12 minus a negative 6. Okay, So this is one of those subtracting a negative number again. So remember what subtraction means. To subtract a number means to add the opposite of that number. Okay? So to subtract a negative 6 means to add the opposite of negative 6, which is positive 6. This ends up being an 18. I mean, if you break it down to, they're called first principles, oftentimes you'll get right where you need to get. Here's one where we mixed up order of operations with these negative numbers. 5 times 2 plus 9 times negative 6. So there's a couple computations you have to do. First of all, order of operations. So you know you have to do multiplications and multiplications before you do anything else. So 5 times 2 is going to give you 10. 9 times negative 6 is negative 54. Okay, it's negative for all the discussions we had in class about what happens when you multiply a positive times a negative. So that's 10 plus a negative 54, which you can think of as 10 plus a negative 54, or you can think of it as 10 minus 54. Either of those things is fine. Either way, you're starting at 10 and moving 54 units that way. So if you start at 10 and you move left 10, you're back at 0. You then would have to go 44 more down to negative 44 to get to what this puppy dog equals up here. All right, doing well, doing well. Next one is similar, except it's subtraction, which is not the biggest deal. I should really be more compact with what I'm writing. I apologize for not being. So, let's see, 9 times negative 2 minus 2 times 6. Okay, so it starts the same way, right? Starts exactly the same way, order of operation. 9 times negative 2 is negative 18, minus 2 times 6 is 12. So now you're at negative 18, and you're going to subtract 12. Subtracting 12 just means move 12 more to the left. You're already at negative 18, 12 more down puts you at negative 30. Oh, very nice. And hopefully you realize you can enter these in technology and get these results back. This one's a little bit mean. I did a half times negative 1 minus a half times 1. So you have a half times negative 1 minus a half times 1. Hopefully you'll know that this one, that one, and the previous one all have the same order of operations idea. Multiply these together. Oh, that's not a, that's a positive 1/2, excuse me. Positive, yes, positive 1/2 times negative 1. So a half times a negative 1 is just going to be a negative 1/2 minus a positive 1/2. So you've got negative 1/2 minus a half more. So again, I'm going to draw a number line for this one. If you're at negative 1/2, I'm going to put 0 over here, and I'll put negative 1 here. If you're at negative 1/2, so you start here, and then you move left 1/2 more, you end up at negative 1. You end up at negative 1. No big deal, right? No big deal. You end up at negative 1. So that's that one. This next one here, it looks terrible, but really I expected you probably just to use technology on this one. 0.182 times negative 2 minus 0.4815 times 5. Enter it directly into technology. I'm going to do it right here. You can't see it, but I'm going to do it and talk you through it. So 0.182 times negative 2 minus, yep, times negative 2 minus 4.815 times 5. And I'm going to get some negative number. Yeah, negative 24.439. So there's that one. Okay. And the last one was exactly the same way. Just go ahead and use, by all means, use technology. A 9th times negative 2. 9th times negative 2. Let's see. Minus 2/9 times negative 3. Plus 5/9 times 5. And the whole thing ends up being about 3.22. So there you go. There you go. I mean, that is you might be off by a couple in especially that last one, depending on how you converted the fractions and dealt with the fractions. But regardless, it's just a matter of applying what you already know about arithmetic: multiplication, addition, division, subtraction, and throwing some negative numbers into the mix. And we'll keep practicing them in class, and we'll see you there. Thanks.